Hello and welcome to this video. It's V here. Today we're going to discuss why your monthly recurring revenue offer isn't selling and how you can flip it around to get the maximum bang for your buck while creating a beautiful monthly recurring revenue pipeline. With that being said, like and subscribe to this video and let's get into it. The very first thing we actually want to be aware of when we're selling continuity programs, right, monthly recurring revenue offers, is that people don't really want to be in that. There's a psychological thing that happens when you go, look, you're just going to be part of this world, you're going to be paying $5K a month, but that doesn't feel great, okay? There's a couple of ways that we can anchor this and make it feel really, really different to get you success on the front end and on the back end and to make the client feel like they're being whisked along a really beautiful journey to experience that, okay? It's particularly relevant for coaches, consultants, people that are service-based businesses really that are working online and working in this kind of style. So before we get into that, there's a formula I want you to bear in mind. Acquisition plus retention equals growth, okay? We acquire customers. That's a natural part of any sales cycle. That's what has to happen. Retention is where a lot of people don't focus and end up losing tons and tons of money. Like that should be part of your puzzle no matter what you do. And then that equals growth. So if we can't reliably acquire customers, we're going to struggle with growth. If we can't retain customers and maximize the lifetime value that they have, well, then again, we're going to struggle with both. And the only way that we can make this happen really, really well, get it ticking like clockwork and make you loads of money, is by having acquisition and retention in place. But here's what we want to bear in mind that's really, really crucial. We don't want to acquire at a loss. A lot of companies do this. A lot of SaaS companies do this. It's really, really common. If you're selling just a straight monthly recurring revenue offer and the value isn't really there, what you'll do is that you're really trying to break even on the first thing. But what we want to do is flip it around so that you can acquire customers at a massive profit. Because at the end of the day, if you can set that up in a way that you're profiting on the actual acquisition of it, and then you've also got the retention of it on the back end, well, you're just going to get the cash spike from the injection of the person coming in, but you've also got the perpetuity, the recurring revenue coming in on the back end. So let's talk about that very first segment, how we can actually acquire a customer at a cost before we talk about increasing the retention on the back end. So let me ask you this, okay? You're on a sales call or you're reading through a sales doc, you're going through some kind of sales process and someone says to you, hey, we're going to work together for 2 years. And that's going to cost you $1,500 a month. It's going to cost you $2,000 a month for the next 2 years. Or someone goes, the very first thing that we're going to do with you is take you through this first 3-month process in which we're going to help you hit XYZ thing that's really important to you. Which one of those are you more likely to buy? The answer is number 2, right? The fixed transformation that you can get bought in on and that you get without the massive long-term commitment right now, at least mentally speaking. That's where we want to be. And what this allows us to do is do 2 things. One, we can actually increase the price for that short period of time, because people who are bought in on a specific result will always pay more than those that are bought in on a long-term journey as far as cash up front goes, right? It's important that we make that distinction because we're going to talk about that later. So by setting this front end of this actually up correctly, you can bring people in at a higher price point. Let's call it 5 to 6K for 2 to 3 months. Let's say you've got a very specific piece of your puzzle, of your process that you know has to be set up correctly for the rest of it to work. What a lot of people do is they have a really big program, right? So let's say that you're helping people with organic marketing. Well, the very first thing that we know has to be in place, the offer has to be good. Never mind we're talking about their content and their sales strategy and their DMs and all this other stuff that people might do. If this very first pillar isn't in place, then the whole thing falls apart. So here's something that's really, really cool that you can do. You can sell the initial first pillar as its own program at a high price point. You're taking people through that initial transformation because realistically, they have to go through this to graduate to the next piece anyway. So that is how you set up the front end that's defined. And so you can charge 5 to 6K for a 1 to 2 month period, making it really, really clean that the transformation here is this. And once they have this thing, there's something else that's happening. So that fixes our acquisition at a profit rather than acquisition at a loss or acquisition at a break even. Which brings us on to part 2, which is the retention piece. We've got the acquisition and now it's about retention and making that thing stick. Now here's what's really, really interesting. Just a quick note on this. The actual price isn't as relevant as what the person is feeling in that moment. Someone buying a 6K program doesn't feel the same as them paying 1K a month. Someone paying 10K up front, you're likely to get less closes on that than 1.5K a month for the year, even though the actual ticket over the year is higher, right? 1.5K a month is 18,000 versus the 10K up front. So I just want you to bear this in mind. So what we have now in the actual structure of this is we have our front end offer, which is taking them through that unique transformation, which is really the first pillar of your program anyway, because that's essential because nothing else works without this. And now what happens is everything else that you do is actually more stuff. But because someone has come in at a higher price, the price of your value is anchored way higher. And now that that has actually happened, you can give them everything else that you do and bring them into your world, which is more stuff. It's going to allow them to use this asset that they've built out in a more effective kind of way. And you can give them more stuff for a lower price point per month. So let's say you have a 6K up front, right? You're going to help them build out this thing. Well, now you have a 1.5K trickle afterwards where they now get given, using the organic client acquisition example that we used earlier, now they're given all the scripts, the templates, the flow, the workshops, all this kind of stuff that you've got going on. And what that'll do is it'll create massive success on the front end, and it'll make your back end feel like a steal. So you've had this, let's call it 5K for 2 months, and now you've got 10 months of 1.5K a month. The total of that is 20,000 for the year, as opposed to either just running a high ticket front end, right? Come and work with us for 3 months, it's going to cost you 8K, or just running a monthly recurring revenue back end, which is come and work with us 1.5K a month for the next year. You're actually making more money, but the momentum that the client gets is better. The results you'll get is better. You'll get more referrals. You'll have a higher uptake on your actual back end. And what's really cool is that when the quality of the client is higher, your program seems better. There is a world of difference between someone coming into your inner circle that is a high quality action taker of a client than someone who's just going to come in and not take any action. And what you really want is for your inner circle or your monthly recurring revenue backend offer to be a high value place where people are connecting. Now, bonus tip here, what you can do is chuck all of these people on the back end into a community, into a private space. And that way, the people that are also coming in the front end, they get to experience that community for a little bit of time. It makes it really, really sticky and actually really, really cool. So that's what you can do to acquire clients at a profit on the front end while keeping the momentum really, really high because of this fixed transformation and time frame, and then easily upsell them on the back end, creating that long-term monthly recurring revenue for you in the process, which is where we really want to go. We care about lifetime value of the client. So acquisition at a profit, retention for massive lifetime value equals growth. That's where you want to be. Any questions, give us a shout below this video or reach out to me directly. As always, my Facebook profile and Facebook group will be in the description, so you can come and hang out in those places and speak to me directly. And we'll see you next time.